Stand up. Z. Stand up.
Hey there guys, Noah here, and welcome to the Legion Mate podcast. It's going to be a monthly series that I'm going to do here on the channel where I'm just going to sit here and talk with you guys alongside with my girlfriend and co-host, Mira Carneco.
Hi everybody.
And we're just going to sit down and talk about the latest information and news regarding the Cardfight Vanguard franchise as a whole. So, oh boy. So we've got quite a few topics I want to talk about today, but I want to start with just how we're feeling about the overall approach going into DivineZ, because they're really, this year it seems like that Bushiroad is really trying to push for standard, even though really I'm still on the fence about it, but I'm curious about your take on this.
Well, I mean, it is their format right now, so of course that they're going to push that one because that's the one they're making sets for and selling. Am I upset that we have not seen a V thing in 2 full years? Yes.
Almost 2 years, yeah.
But Premium gets at least two things a year for it, and V gets nothing but random cards coming out for it, but that's not really the point. But yeah, it's just obvious that they'd be pushing standard more. Are we talking about product details?
I guess I want to start with how do we feel about the start decks that they at the time of this recording they just came out in Japan, and we won't be getting them until April in English. But based off what we've been seeing, the fact that a good majority of the cards straight up do not have any skills on it.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And the big thing about it for us here in the West is that, at least in Japan, they have a lot more of an easier time controlling what the base value for these decks are going to be in Japan. But here in the West, I almost expect them to kind of upsell and overcharge for these decks.
Here's the problem. The upselling is only going to happen because of the energy card, because now that thing is going to be required to play every standard deck, which you could just get one and then switch it between all the decks, but that's a lot of work. But again, the point is that that's why it's going to be upcharged, and that's why they're going to be hard to get after a certain point. I personally, I'm just picking up the Dark States one. I usually love Stoicheia, but I'm not a fan of the Grand Blue aesthetic from the new set that's coming from the Stoicheia boss unit. And not that I plan to build the Manticore deck, but I do plan to build the Direful Doll deck that comes out
in set 1, yeah.
So the triggers are Direful Dolls, and it's just good to have. I just want that one energy card.
Which I think is a real big talking point in Japan. But because the big thing about it was, initially when we were first getting details about it, they were under the assumption that we wouldn't actually it wouldn't be mandatory. And all of a sudden, almost before the official release date, they kind of do a double take and say, hey, we actually have to play with it, otherwise you can't actually play the game.
Yeah, that ruling's a little ridiculous. I could see why that ruling would come, that after more and more units get this energy thing, because I know Desire Devils in the new set are getting energy blast stuff. I don't know if Direful Dolls, the new stuff that's coming, is going to have one. I'm going to talk more about Direful Dolls later, but I'm just using this as an example right now. I know things are going to require energy blasts later in the future, but right now it's just really a sticking point where only the stuff from the trial decks and the new DivineZ booster are going to have it. So it is weird to require people to bring it right at the beginning of it. I could see near the end of the year being required, but right now I get it. But at the same time, that puts a lot of pressure on people to buy the trial decks. That puts a lot of pressure on those scalpers that are just going to buy all the trial decks for cheap and then sell them for higher prices later. And then, I don't know. I just don't think it was a smart decision on their end. But I get why they had to do it. Yeah.
The only way that they could at least somewhat justify this is if in the booster set, they make it as a box topper, which I think that would be the only real way you could go about justifying this whole issue of, because then at that point you technically wouldn't need to buy the start deck unless you really wanted to, because by that point, because there are going to be so many booster boxes being sold out there, at that point it'll make it so that way the energy counters and whatnot are a lot easier to obtain at that point.
I think like if they put three in a booster as a box topper, it probably could work where it will be as scalped
Right.
for higher pricing, but it's just, I'm even debating on whether I will need to put money down for the trial deck now or later, because I'm just afraid of the scalping prices later on.
I am too, and that's because a lot of people in Japan will probably be confused on it. I don't know if I have anybody who's from Japan who actually plays the Japanese version of the game, but the biggest issue here, especially here in the United States, I feel like a lot of the time when a new set comes out and that's kind of mandatory, or just cards in general that have become mandatory, people on the secondary market just go absolutely crazy and don't take a second to realize that it's a problem to upcharge a certain card, Harmonix Messiah. But
okay, well, there's problems with it. It's not just people scalping for it. It's also because Bushy doesn't know how to rarity stuff and how to put stuff in a box so it's more accessible to people. Like, it's not just people being scalpers as assholes. It's also Bushy making it almost nearly impossible. Like, if Harmonix Messiah came as one per box, there wouldn't be as much of an issue.
Right.
But because you pulled a box and you weren't even guaranteed to get it, you could have pulled like 5 boxes and still not gotten a Harmonix Messiah. Which
I'm pretty sure in History Collection that they came like 2 per case, if that. So that's
that's what I mean. That's a Bushy problem, not
a scalper problem.
Scalpers don't help the problem, but again, Bushy could have done something to make it so it wasn't that an issue and that people aren't paying like $80 for a Messiah.
But yeah.
At least the good thing is that when that premium set comes out, each one's going to come with a Messiah.
Which, thank God, because Jesus Christ, I
bit the bullet and paid for a Messiah for, I think it was like $60 at the time.
I thought it was $70 that you bought it for.
No, I bought it for $60.
Yeah, I bought mine for like $15, I know.
Yeah, but that's because you had it since you don't have the text one.
Yeah, which it is a problem. But I think if they don't course correct, the energy thing is going to be a problem for Standard. And I think outside of that one issue, I think how they're going about it is fine. Again, I don't think anyone really likes the idea of the start decks not having any skills, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely ridiculous. Like, I get for how they did the previous ones with, like, Leonore and DeJeweled and Rika, where they made some of them to, like, learn the game. Some of them without skills. But then they gave you the option to have the cards with skills.
Right.
But I'm just kind of surprised they didn't go that route. And just to have, like, a whole deck of vanillas and you can't even errata text them when their actual skills come out is just kind of a dick move, in my opinion.
Yeah, because then you're essentially telling people, hey, we know this is like, but the thing, I don't know, I'm just a little peeved about the whole thing, because it really seems like they're just forcing you to buy the deck, not even to play it, but just for one card. And the little counter that it comes with.
For one card.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
At least the decks you're building in the future. Like, I'm getting more mileage out of mine because those triggers can actually matter for a deck I'm going to build in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And then the vanillas, I don't know what the hell I'll do with them. I'll probably keep the Matacorn just in case for some odd reason it becomes a deck I can build.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's ridiculous to not offer at least any skills at all on any of those cards aside from the Grade 3 boss unit.
The only other good thing about it too is that they at least come with one effect trigger and then one perfect guard with a higher chance of getting Sanctitude, which I think isn't the worst value at that point, because if you do end up pulling the Sanctitude, that's essentially your start deck right there. And in Japan in particular, that's like 2 start decks worth, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. But
I don't know. But when it comes to the actual booster set, how are you feeling about it so far? Because we just, at the time of this recording, we just got the reveals for the Direfall's doll set. stuff. So
I'm interested. Well, as many of you may know, I am a connoisseur of the Nightmare Doll. Of the Nightmare Doll. So I was waiting since the beginning of this. As soon as I saw the Direful Doll name, I was like, yeah, they're gonna make a Direful Doll deck at some point. It's only a matter of time. Which I did save all the Direful Doll cards and all the Workroids just in case they used the Workroid text for when this day finally came. But they are doing specifically more Direful Doll, which I'm actually surprised that they only released like 5 cards with the Direful Doll.
Before that, right?
Before the this new set, before the set that comes out, that'll have the actual support for it. And also, like, I'm doing my research to prepare for this deck. Rami and Remy from the Fox Girl deck, technically they are Direful Dolls. I just wouldn't get the glitter text using them.
I mean, what's their actual skill outside of that, though? Anything decent, or just...
Well, one of them is, like, if you have the other one on board, you Soul Blast and draw a card. The other one is Soul Blast. You can make an opponent put their card into Soul, which it's very cost-heavy, but again, the point of this deck is going to be you need cards with Direful Doll in their card name.
So you
skills go off.
So you're just going to throw it in there because, Direful Doll name.
Yeah. And I've been trying to think of premium implications for them, but it's a little harder to try to squeeze them in for premium. But
because you already have like everything you need in premium, I feel like,
Well, there's always room for improvement. It just depends on what cards come out.
Yeah, but I think going into it, like, how did you feel about? Because initially, I feel like a lot of people when they saw the Divine's skills, they were like, oh, it's going to be this massive thing where it's like, it's a really stupid broken effect, for the Divine skill. And then meanwhile, it's just like, no, you just get a slightly above average kind of skill once per game.
Would you like to explain what that skill is?
Well,
for the people who don't know at home?
Yeah, might as well. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So yeah, for example, we have the Faded one of Guiding Star Wellstrip Blitz Arms. When he attacks a Vanguard, costs Energy Blast 2, take a product from your Order Zone Operator, and then this unit gets plus 10 to end a battle, and then Divine Skill, act on Vanguard Circle, cost Counterblast 1, choose up to 2 product orders with different card names from your hand, place them into the Order Zone, and if you put 2 cards, you can choose a product from your Order Zone and operate it. So like these Divine Skills kind of, they help accelerate your game plan, but they don't just absolutely break your deck in half, which I think is a massive like plus in my opinion. Because honestly,
it's going to depend on the deck. It's going to depend on the skill. It's going to depend on how useful it is in general. I can't really say for certain.
Yeah, but like
unless I see all the ones individually.
But like that's what I mean, because I feel like a lot of people's misconception of it was like, oh, this Divine Skill is going to be so broken,
I mean, that is kind of ridiculous what that card offers, to be able to operate 2 different machines, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, but either way, I think we have to wait to see how the rest of the Divine Skills are going to play out before like we actually fully like mutually agree on like whether or not it's too broken or whatnot. But I think we'll just wait to see what happens with that. So I think with that being said, I kind of want to move into the main discussion point for today's video. Now that we have like the main products figured out. And
I have one more thing to say.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Thank God they're splitting the nations in half.
Oh my God, yeah, I completely forgot to bring that up. So go ahead.
Okay. You don't know, for people who probably are skipping out on standard for a while, doing cases with people was a pain in the butt for this, because you're definitely guaranteed 1 playset, but you're not guaranteed 2 playsets of every card, unless it's just the commons and rares. But like at double rare and higher, you were not guaranteed even a second playset of stuff, and some of the cards will require for multiple decks and not just the one archetype that it's based on.
Mm-hmm.
And just having to afford cards like Diantha, Brainwash Swirler, what's something for Keter?
What the heck is it? What the?
For Keter, what is that one?
Calbry or whatever the heck that name was from a while back.
Yeah, also your Painkiller Angel.
No, Painkiller Angel, they kept on reprinting.
Yeah, I know, but if they didn't, it would be a card that would be scalped for and upcharged because of
how bad
how good the card is in every deck.
Mm-hmm.
So just the fact that they're splitting it in half means people are going to get a whole lot more out of their ratios for buying cases. And it also doesn't mean that everyone has to invest in every single goddamn case. Because I play Dark States and Strikea, and I really don't care about the rest of it. Well, I mean, if Lyrical ever made something I wanted to play, I'd probably go for it.
Really? Because I never would take you for that.
Well, I always wanted to try the Black Wings, White Wings deck, but it just never happened. But anyway, the point is that just I miss those days back in V where all I had to worry about was 2 clans and then everything else I didn't have to worry about spending my money on.
Yeah.
Aside from like this past year where almost every month or every other month I had to put money into Vanguard just to keep up with the meta on all my decks.
Yeah, that to me that was the big like cuidado about the nations, which was my biggest problem with going into it. But now I think because they're not trying to cram every single boss card into one set and that they're kind of splitting it off into 2 sets, I do think it will kind of help out, you know, at least make it so that way the ratios are better, and 2, it's not like that the other nations aren't going to get support, because obviously we know you get Direful Dolls in this set. So, you know, you'll still have enough cards to go around for that at that point.
Yeah.
Without completely just, you know, screwing over the people that, you know, that really invested into like the Brantgate or the Keter stuff at that point.
Yeah, or the Dragon Empire, because I think that's how it's being split up, is Dragon Empire, Keter, Brant, which I don't have to touch anything in there.
And I don't intend to plan to build anything because I already have my deck for the year coming in February.
And then the next one is Stoicheia, Dark States, and Lyrical, which Stoicheia hasn't really had anything that I've said to myself I need to pick up, because it seems more like it's built for the new Grade 3 that's coming from the trial deck and for Zorga. And unless something else releases for it that where it's like Granfina support or Rowan support or my favorite deck Leonarn support, then I don't really need to pick up there. But for Dark States, I have Desire Devils coming, I have the Direful Doll deck coming, so that I do need to probably get a...
And you're also getting Magnolia support, I thought, too, in set 1.
Oh, right, that's true. Magnolia, but those cards I could buy as singles.
Exactly,
at a later point, and I don't have to worry about that.
I don't know.
About doing a case split for something like that.
I just overall think that their approach with these new sets are pretty good overall, I think. But we have to wait to see how the case ratios are going to play out in Japan, because then we'll know for sure if what we're saying is accurate or not.
I just hope that this isn't something that's just a one-off for the beginning of DivineZ. I hope they continue this, though. Where they separate the nations into 2 different sets instead of trying to cram 5 nations, and now with Lyrical being more common, 6 nations. Please do not cram 6 nations into one set. Bushy, that would be the biggest mistake. Then you're not even guaranteeing your player base that buy cases will even get the full play sets at that point.
Exactly.
Like, please, for the love of God, Bushy Road, don't do that. Just separate the sets. Please, for the love of God. It's fine if, like, not everything gets supported at once. It's fine. It's okay. People can wait a month in between, or 2 months in between for support. Just, for the love of God, don't put 6 in a set.
Yeah, because that was my main concern with them putting Lyrical in as well into the main sets now. Because Lyrical, for the longest time, was always had their own dedicated sets, kind of like how Bermuda did back in V.
Yeah, but they were only getting support, like, twice a year.
Exactly.
So, like, I can kind of get... But it's for them getting their own dedicated set made sense. But I guess I get why the twice a year was kind of like, you know, your stuff gets power creeped out, then you're just kind of bum out of luck.
Exactly.
So, I get why, like, they wanted to include Lyrical in, but just, for the love of God, don't include 6 sets and 6 nations in one case, for the love of God, Bushy. Please do not do that for a set. Please.
Alright, so, speaking of things that we were kind of just, like, Bushy, please fix, but then they ultimately kind of just, people are kind of mixed on it, is tri-regulation, as well as the new, like, changes to, like, how, you know, this year's tournament structure is going to be for Springfest.
Yeah, let's talk about the what day 1 and day 2 will be. I think day 1 is standard.
Yeah, so day 1 is just going to be straight up standard. No premium, side, like, other tournament to go coincide like how they've done in the past.
Probably because they got Shadowverse and White Schwartz to
kind of fit into the schedule too, which makes sense at that point.
And then day 2 with the team tournament, it's every team member. It's 3 a team.
Yep.
And every team member has to play a different format, which I think will be fun and exciting. I'm looking forward to playing it. And I think it'll bring out a lot. The only thing I'm worried about is that everyone's going to be playing the same premium deck, the same. Like, that's the only thing that I would say, like, just for the sake of winning, like, people are going to start playing, like...
the most meta picks at that point, which I think, given the fact that V really wasn't getting a whole lot of support, I kind of am just on the fence about tri-regulation. Because the thing is, sure, you could sit there and make the argument that they can't fit a premium tournament at the same day that they're trying to do all these other tournaments. And especially when Standard gets big turnouts too. Like, there were a couple BCSs this past year that had to have 2 different, like, tournaments go on at the same time for the same format. Because they just had that many people. So I get why they're doing it. At the same time, I also don't like how there is no just one dedicated premium tournament, just straight up premium for those people who actually want to play premium and don't want to touch standard at that point, I
get it, but it's also a team league. Like, when you're playing by yourself, it's a little different, but when you have to fit tables with 3 people on one team, it's a little more complicated than that.
I guess, but I feel like this has led to a lot of people kind of just saying, nope, I'm not playing this season. I'm going to wait till BCS. See you guys later, because I know Solemn Vanguard definitely did that, and he just said, nope, well, this just committed to me going full-time Yu-Gi-Oh, but
I think people are just being a little overly salty about it.
I think
this will be a fun experiment to try out. Whether it'll work or not, I don't 100% know. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we've already decided that I'd be playing premium, which means I'd just be playing... If Cecilia's Cecilia's Stride deck was coming out sooner, I would have tried to make Cecilia work, but it won't be ready in time by the time we play in premium, so I'm probably just going to do dolls at Nightmare Dolls still. But I don't know. I think this will be fun. Yeah. I personally look forward to just having a little bit of fun with this. Will I want this to stay this way forever? Probably not, but I think just to change things up, I'm okay with it.
I'm also okay with it. I'm gonna wait to see how things play out, because I do like the idea of tri-regulation, because that way you're not just... because really, at the end of the day, at that point, you get a little bit of everything all in once, instead of trying to fit a V premium tournament that won't get enough player turnout to a point where... because last year, that was a big issue, where V in some premium tournaments, depending on where you went, didn't have enough players to do an actual dedicated team tournament, so they ended up just making it a singles event at that point. So I do think, for the sake of avoiding situations like that, I do think it's a necessary evil.
And plus, it's team league. It's not like this is for world championship.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a fun tournament where you still get prizing if you win, like I discussed in the episode 1 and 2 reaction of DivineZ. When I say prizing, I mean just like you get a card and a medal, which I'm not putting down, but it's not like cash prizing or anything, and it's not an invite to go play at Worlds for this tournament in particular. I think this is supposed to be more of a grab your friends and go play for fun.
Yeah, and
but also gain a little something if you do
well. And I think that's fine, because I think that's the whole point of Springfest. It's not to go super try hard unless you're doing that on purpose, so that way you can prep yourself for BCS season.
Yeah, like the actual tournament where you're playing by yourself and you have to fend for yourself.
But I think it's fine, and especially when we go over how they're structuring the tournament as in terms of like how Swiss and Top 8 is going to work out, because this has been a massive contention point for a couple days now at the time of this recording. But I want to like quickly go over some stuff, and I want your takes on this. So,
right.
When it comes to the overall like regulations for how this is going to play out, for standard in particular, it's going to be 30-minute rounds, best of one. Obviously.
And how many were they before?
And for standard, I believe it was like 25 minutes or so. Which
I think 30 minutes is enough to finish one game.
at least if standard, right? Because
in
like
standard, yeah, I would say so. Because standard does go pretty quickly. I know with the 4 cards added in deck now,
it may extend the gameplay a bit.
Yeah, but I don't think for standard there's like stall tactics like there are in V and Premium, where you could just keep doing like looping skills around or like stalling out the game. Like I don't think standard has a way where you can really do that. So I don't think it's an issue for standard. Also, 30 minutes is pretty generous for standard.
Yeah.
I don't see an issue. Like I don't see a thing where it's like you couldn't finish the game within 30 minutes. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, or like I do think like that ruling, the timeout ruling double loss.
I didn't even go over that, but essentially, but the big problem of all this, right, is that essentially they're making it so that way, if after the 30 minutes that you're still playing, both players get a double loss, which I think is complete and utter bullshit.
Okay. Like I said before, standard shouldn't be an issue. If you're still in a game within 30 minutes of standard, something's going wrong. For Premium, on the other hand,
regulation it's 35 minutes. Yes.
For Premium, though, I think it's kind of garbage because Premium is way too involved. Like if you made the timer 45 minutes, then I can be like, yeah, at that point you probably could do a double loss. But like 35 minutes for Premium matches, there are a lot of Premium matches that don't end in 35 minutes.
They don't even get like halfway done in under like.
There are
30.
a lot of matches I play in Premium that don't end in 35 minutes where we've gone into turns.
Yeah.
And like a double loss stinks. And last year when we did this, they did play with the double loss rule. Didn't look at damage or anything. It was the first match. I was clearly ahead with only 2 damage. The guy had 5. He was about to take a 6 damage. Time's up. Let's look. Oh, nope. Nobody won, so you both lose. I was actually pretty angry about that.
Yeah, no, I was...
Now that I know that it's definitely a rule that they're applying, I'm probably going to have to practice with a timer.
Yeah. Just
to understand how long I actually play for.
But even then, like, it's still ridiculous because they don't even check damage. At least it doesn't seem to apply they check damage with this ruling.
No, it doesn't say that they do. I think they said that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. It straight up doesn't matter at that point.
You just get a double loss.
Which I think is bullshit because I think it should just straight up be once the 30 minutes are up, then at that point you should just compare damage. Like because especially if someone like in that case where you're obviously in the lead and you're about to win.
Well, then it becomes a problem of people are just stalling out the timer.
No,
and
but
can just stall out the time. Like, this is an issue when playing with the Pokemon VGC, is the 20-minute timer battle is sometimes not enough for a full effective battle to go on, so then you can just stall the timer and have the Pokemon advantage by the time the timer runs out, and I think that's why they put the system in place so people wouldn't abuse it and keep themselves at low damage on purpose.
Right.
Just so then that way they don't like just say like, oh, game's over? Oh, let me look. I couldn't kill you, but I'm at 1 and you're at 4? Ah, too bad. Too bad. I'm so sorry. It looks like I got the win. Like at least it prevents people from being jerks like that and just like
purposely stalling just for the sake of a win.
Yeah.
Which again, because then in top 8, then this is the real reason why people are upset. Then for top 8, that's when they do like actual turns and do like.
Well, that's because it's top 8.
But like,
it's because it's top 8. It's the official play out for prizing. Is why I see why they would still keep it in for that.
But it's still a little scummy in my opinion, because
I get it from the tournament's perspective. Because you do want actual people to have the actual wins, legitly, and not just due to a rule shark.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, is it kind of scummy? Yes, but it makes sense. Because games take a while when you play under those other rules. And again, people try to scumbag the timer at times. At least in top 8, the judges are watching you more carefully to watch and see if you're scumbagging moves on purpose and stuff like that.
Right.
But I have to see how this plays out when we go.
I have to wait to see how this plays out over the first like couple tournaments that they're going to do, because I feel like this is going to be an issue that a lot of people are going to probably continue to bring up, enough to a point where Bushiroad may do a double take with it midway through the season. If not, they'll definitely change it for next year.
Yeah, well, I think for
standard, I think it's not an issue.
Yeah, standard it's not an issue, but for tri-format, I think if they extended it to 40 minutes, we could be fine.
Yeah.
I just think 35 minutes is sometimes not enough for a premium match to end.
It really isn't. But I think, with that being said, I'm excited for Springfest. I admit, a lot of the Springfests over the last couple of years have been kind of samey. So I do think that tri-regulation is a good idea on paper. But in practice, we have to wait and see how that plays out throughout this season. And I'm going to try to use these podcasts to kind of go over like some of the results that come out of these tournaments. But again, I think this is a necessary change, because let's be honest, if they're not going to support V, I think this is the next best thing at that point, so that way they can at least somewhat like keep people engaged with the format, but without having this situation where it's like there are not enough players to actually make an actual proper V tournament for team league and whatnot.
I get that.
But I think, with that being said, did you have anything else that we wanted to talk about Vanguard-wise at this point?
No, I think we're good. If you do want to hear about our opinions on the anime happening right now, you can check out the reaction video we did to episode 1 and 2, where we go into more detail about everything. Aside from that, I think we've covered up pretty much everything we could.
But yeah, let us guys know what you think in the comment section below regarding all of this. Do you like the new stuff that's coming out of Standard? Do you like the fact that tri-regulations and things, or do you absolutely fucking despise it and I'm going to avoid it like the plague? Oh wait, that doesn't necessarily work anymore because COVID. But until next time, this is Noah.
And Maricard Neko.
And we'll catch you guys later.
Bye everyone.